I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on.
Guys, this is so funny and bizarre. Look at that. That is the Bud Light. That is every single Bud Light stand here at Fenway Park in Boston.
This has never happened before. No beer brand has ever lost 25% market share in a matter of hours.
The old king of beers has been dethroned. Who is the new
shocker?
king?
Shocker coming up. Modelo Especial is the new top-selling beer in America.
International Women's Day is upon us again, and I love an international woman. But our friends over at Hershey's, they don't even know what a woman is. They've hired a biological male to be the spokesperson for their Women's Day campaign. And they're calling that campaign, and I swear I'm not making this up, Her-She. Her-She. It's humiliating. And it's the reason that I'm launching Jeremy's Chocolate. We have two kinds, she, her, and he, him. One of them's got nuts. If you need me to tell you which one it is, keep giving your money to Hershey's.
Today we're here at Target. Let's go in and see what they got going on for Pride Month. So right now I'm standing. It's not a phase, Dad. You also got coloring books. Hold on,
Target, the Target have got in trouble for tuck-friendly, I'm glad they got in trouble, tuck-friendly swimwear for kids. What is tuck-friendly swimwear for kids?
So they're putting these displays very prominently of all these political messaging on kids' clothing and even things like that. I mean, normalising kids tucking their genitalia as if they're Leah Thomas about to take on the females at an NCAA championship.
Target, this is a company that's lost over $13 billion in market cap since the fiasco with its Pride line. Are you buying the stock? What's your take on Target?
Actually, no, we're not buying the stock. As of 2 weeks ago, we sold all of our Target positions. And I'll tell you why. We had clients calling our office that were upset about it. We were upset about it. I mean, the thing that really got us was Target chose to partner with Appellon, which is a London-based designer that sells satanic and occultic LGBT clothing to children. We just thought that was a line too far, and then Target's CEO doubled down and defended that, saying it's the right thing for society. So we think management is so disconnected from their customers, so disconnected from the millions of families and moms that shop at Target that love the products that they sell. They're getting this wrong. I think that impacts the stock. I think Target stock belongs in the ash heap of history because they are so wrong on this. Wow. It's going to impact earnings and profitability going forward.
A fringe group like this, honored, awarded, celebrated? There is no equality in mocking women religious, no tolerance in hate, no pride in anti-Catholic bigotry. Mocking Christians is not the Dodger way.
Several days later.
Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence for their outstanding service to the LGBTQ+ community. Sister Unity and Sister Lydia.
Stadium carrying their signs and voicing their message. We also want to take a look at some Air 7 HD video to give you a look of what it looks like overhead and how large this crowd is overhead and what it looks like as, again, a few thousand protesters, many of them Catholics, are marching in response to the group, the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, being included in tonight's Dodgers Pride Night.
So let's pray. So it's important to understand that this is a prayer and not a protest. We're basically praying for the so-called nuns.
This group of a few thousand demonstrators is being vocal tonight about their issues with the Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence and the group's inclusion in Dodgers Pride Night.
We should be tolerant of everybody. Likewise, they should be tolerant of our faith and our feelings.
Shirts and signs sprinkled in the crowd calling for a boycott of the Dodgers after the team invited the sisters to accept a Community Hero Award as part of tonight's festivities.
The Dodgers are doing, allowing your sisters to be here, it goes against the Catholic faith.
If they were to do that with the Muslim group, then no one would put up with that.
Sisters telling KABC at last week's Angels Pride Night the entire house plans to attend tonight's Dodgers game.
Welcome to another Wednesday night, everybody. Thank you for joining. It looks like we're having some trouble on the Rumble stream this evening, so I'm not sure why it's not picking up there, but it is not. So if I can't speak to the people on Rumble. I posted the links to Rumble for Facebook and YouTube in case they want to join there, but it does not. It seems like some people were waiting, and I unfortunately can't do anything once the stream begins. So it is what it is. But welcome back, folks. So it's been a very busy week or so. As you know from last week, I had gone to Mexico on vacation with my family, and during that week, my phone is just blowing up with one bizarre story after another. Everything from aliens to IRS agents, and and I was just absolutely sitting there scratching my head, like, all right, what do I do first? But the one that I absolutely want to talk about, because it's becoming a recurring theme, is the whole Dodger Stadium and the whole power of the purse piece by the American people, which has just been absolutely on fire. And it started with Budweiser, then moved on to Target. Hershey's made a play, and that Jeremy's chocolate. If you saw that during the intro there, the Jeremy's chocolate is real. So he made that he's with the Daily Wire, if you don't know who he is. And he did this with razors back in the day when Gillette did some ridiculous woke nonsense. He came up with his own razor, shut up and shave, just a masculine, type of deal. And now with Hershey's, he came up. I thought it was the funniest thing ever with the he she bar and the he him bar. One has nuts, and then if you don't know which one it is, he says, then he can't help you. So, and those candy bars sold 500,000. They didn't even have them like in stock, right? So they had to like still be made and sent. There was like a month waiting list, and 500,000 in the first week sold. So that's wild. And I was just, when I heard that, I just thought, all right, you're getting added to the cool list. Sheila, how are you? Yes, I am home safely. We flew out of Tijuana this time, so it was a new thing for me. But we saved like $1,000 in flights. They have this interesting thing at the border. So if you don't know, folks, I live in Southern California. Not in LA, but in Southern California. And we drove down to San Diego to the border, and there's this like walk-through bridge that crosses the border from, they call it CBX. It's, I forget what it stands for, something California border crossing or something like that. But it was a pretty interesting experience. But and you walk through this tunnel, this bridge, and through this tunnel, and you just end up in Tijuana in the airport. You never even walk outside. But we saved a lot of money that way. Had a great time in Mexico. I was forced, unfortunately, to drink InBev products, at least one. I kept it to Modelo, but if you're not aware, Modelo, I know it just overtook Budweiser as the number one, as the king of beers, but in Mexico and everywhere else in the world, for that matter, Modelo is actually owned by InBev and Anheuser-Busch. But I was on an all-inclusive resort, and that's the only beer that they offered. So I didn't read that or Corona. So I went with the Modelo. But anyway, enough about the vacation. I want to talk about the success of these protests and these. So folks, Dodger Stadium, right? For those that are living under a rock somewhere, right? Dodger Stadium and Angel Stadium did this too. I did not know that until I was putting the clips together for this video. But they honored these nuns of the Nuns of Perpetual Indulgence. It's a clearly satanic organization. All right, just listen to the name, right? It's not like these people try to hide it, right? When you're saying Sisters of Perpetual Indulgence, it's do as thou wilt, right? That's what they're saying. And their facial makeup and their mockery of the Catholic faith and Christians in general is blatant for all to see. These people do no good in the world. Their contributions to transgenders, they say. Well, yeah, their contributions to Marxist takeover is what that is, and the mutilation of our children. This is what their contributions are to. And this is what the Dodgers organization and the Angels organization are honoring them for. So I understand, I understand the avid baseball fan who's like, man, I can't just stop going to Dodgers games. I can't just stop. You know what? Like, honestly, it's like that guy said a couple weeks ago where we played the video for where the ATF had come to take his FRT trigger and he wouldn't comply. And he was cool and calm about it and whatever. He was just like, I'm just not going to be answering any questions. I'm not going to be talking to you. But one of the things he said to the ATF agents is they sat there and tried to plead and be like, look, we're just the ones they asked to come knock on the doors and this and that. And he said something very powerful to them. He said, I understand that. And I understand you have families. But at some point, and I think this applies to everything now, at some point, you have to decide what team you're on. Like there's no longer sitting on the sidelines, folks. They're coming for children now. There's no longer room to be sitting on the sidelines. So I mean in the end, what I would tell you is people did not sit on the sidelines for the Dodger game. Okay. And as I showed in the ticker video where we were covering basically all the different places and things that people have stepped up on and made an impact. During that Dodger game, if you hadn't seen the footage, the Dodgers were empty. That stadium was absolutely empty. It was absolutely empty for that entire presentation with these sisters. There might have been like 50 people in a 50,000 person stadium. And you wonder, where was everybody? Well, those shots that they were showing, those aerial shots, there were thousands of people outside holding a prayer vigil, right? So they weren't protesting. They weren't getting all animale like the freaking Marxists do. They weren't doing any of that. Well, what they were doing, they started the whole thing off by saying, Jesus, forgive them. They know not what they do. And just went on and prayed for them and tried to demonstrate, where the people stand with all of this. Now, those tickets were sold a while ago. So what's the left spin on this? Well, it was empty because they were blocking the entrance, right? That's one of the spins that the left media put on it, which is completely false. They didn't block any entrance. Now, the crowd was a lot bigger than they had expected for sure, and they were gathered near entrance A of the stadium. But anyone who's been to a baseball stadium knows there are like 10 entrances to any baseball stadium. If you can't get in one, and they weren't purposefully blocking it, but I think the stadium closed it, that one entrance, because there were too many people that weren't going in. And so, and building up as a crowd. But it's not, if people try to tell you they blocked the entrance and that's why they couldn't get in, that's nonsense. And the one point and the one recurring theme that I want to make about this is, and what that video shows, okay, in stark contrast to what the media will have you believe, is that Marxists don't exist, folks. They don't exist. Yeah, they're sprinkled out there. Yeah, they got really loud megaphones, and yeah, they have the media on their side, and they own the institutions, and they speak from a really loud position. But whenever you see these boycotts start to happen, what happens when the Marxists want to boycott something, and the place doesn't kowtow, and the place doesn't take a knee for them? What happens? It happened before, right? This happened with Chick-fil-A. I don't mean the current thing with this new guy they hire or whatever. I'm talking about back before, during COVID, where they all wanted to friggin' boycott Chick-fil-A. All the woke coconuts wanted to friggin' boycott Chick-fil-A. And everybody else stepped up. The rest of us, right, stepped up. And Chick-fil-A killed it in sales that weekend. Killed it. Okay? Where are the Marxists? Where are they to save Bud Light and Anheuser-Busch? After all, they're being punished for promoting their message. Where are they? Where are they? You look at the Dodgers, right? The Dodgers went ahead and canceled this satanic group. They canceled them, and then they got phone calls. I guarantee you, they probably got 100 phone calls, and that represented every single person in this organization. And they took a knee, and they re-invited them back in. And when they did that, they sold their souls. They sold their souls to like 100 people. And what you see, and keep your eyes open for this, folks, because this is what you keep seeing. You keep seeing when we boycott, when we the people boycott, and I don't even want to hear right left. It's Marxist American. That's it. I guarantee you that there were hundreds and hundreds of Democrats in those thousands of people, Democrat voters in those thousands of people who were at that prayer vigil, who were drawing the line at satanic nuns being honored in a major baseball stadium. I guarantee you, this is no longer Democrat, Republican. This is good people, bad people. That's what this is. That's what this is. And the fact is, you need to be on the side of good people. And we all are. These people don't exist. And this is my main thing. And so, as you see these different, whether it's Bud Light or, look, 500,000 people bought chocolate bars that don't even exist just to make a point on how pissed off they are at Hershey's. Like, think about that. The left can't, the Marxists, I ain't even going to say the left, the Marxists can't galvanize that many people on their best freaking day. With all the power of them, they own the media, they own Hollywood, they own all propaganda tools and mechanisms in the United States, really, and globally. And they couldn't muster 500. It's all because you know why? Bots don't buy candy bars. That's why. Bots don't buy baseball tickets. Bots don't bots don't do these things. Bots don't buy Chick-fil-A. Bots don't, they just don't do it. Because they're not real. So when you're on social media and you see all this nonsense, this illusion that they're creating, that there are all these people out there who believe men can have babies and who believe in this pronoun BS and believe in all this garbage, they don't. They don't. They just had a video going viral recently here in California over in Huntington Beach, a math class where they started playing some woke ass LBGBD whatever video on the screen, and the whole class together in unison were like, oh, and then you just hear them all mumbling and being like it's over for them. It's over for them. 5 years ago, they would have put that on in class and they would not have gotten that reaction. But now, post 2020, now that parents are aware of what's going on, now that everyone is aware of what's going on, they can no longer operate in the darkness. And these boycotts have been, and remember, right? Remember, I was never a fan of boycotts. And I was never a fan of boycotts because they never get stuck to. And we always just ended up putting money in BlackRock's pocket every time we did it, because everybody would just they boycott. They wouldn't even fully boycott, but the stock market would react, and then the company would lose $10 billion. The news would report it. All the Fox News cronies. Walmart is down $10 billion after their LGBT, and everybody would be like, go woke, go broke. And then nobody follows up, because what happens after that is the stock dropped, and then BlackRock comes in, buys it all up, causes a run, and makes billions off of that. And everybody walks away thinking that company got hurt, and they didn't get hurt. But Budweiser, they got hurt. They got hurt. That damage is permanent. BlackRock can't come and save you twice, because they're not investing their own money. They're investing other people's money. So if the boycott sticks, as these boycotts have been sticking, then BlackRock cannot save them. They could do it once. But after that, it becomes just a bad investment. And if they start investing in things that are bad investments, and this is where we come in, folks, anyone kowtowing to ESG that hits the radar, because there's so many, you can't get to them all. You don't even know some of them happen. Perfect example is the Angels. I had no idea that the Anaheim Angels had gone ahead and invited these satanic sisters over there as well. But what I do know is that when everybody bands together and you just walk away from these industries, and there's sooner or later, if you haven't hit an industry that you like, if you haven't hit an industry that is important to you, so women, Target probably hit women, right? Because men are not huge Target shoppers, right? That's kind of a woman thing. So, and women stood up and said, you know what? You're not, like mama bears all over the place. You're like, not today. You're not grooming my kids. No way. They did Bud Light. The men stood up for that one, right? It was like, that was a softball, admittedly. That was a softball. Bud Light was easy to walk away from, and it was the worst decision a company could have made. But these lessons are compounding, okay? They're compounding, and I don't know what happened to Hershey's. Hershey's didn't hit the news the way the other two did because it was kind of pre-Bud Light. Now that Bud Light happened, every little one is hitting the news. And every time you see it, like, look, it's going to be a couple years, right? It's probably going to be a year, maybe 2 years, where we're all going to have to give up something that we previously enjoyed. We're all going to have to give up something, some shop, some place, some product, something that we previously enjoyed. Because, as I played for you on the last episode we did, or maybe it was 2 ago with Larry Fink from BlackRock, he said it plain as day. Like, we have to forcibly change behaviors, is what he said. And what he means by that, what he said after that was, we're going to be investing in companies who either change their behavior and we invest in them, or they don't change their behavior and we pull our money out of them. And this boycott thing neutralizes him. It neutralizes BlackRock. Like BlackRock, like in the end, right? If BlackRock wants to continue, are they going to continue to invest in Bud Light? What do you think? Now, they'll probably keep it. Now, it's not Bud Light, right? It's Anheuser-Busch and InBev. So they're going to keep a hold on them, right? They're not going to let them go because they need to own everything big. But in the end, they can't invest more money than they have now. Like, there's no additional investment going into Anheuser-Busch. There is none because they know it's a bad investment. And if they lose, they can't keep investing their own money unless it's that initial rig game that I was talking about. They can't come back and save them twice. So Bud Light's Anheuser-Busch is on its own. InBev, whatever, is on its own now. Bud Light's dead in the United States. It's dead. It's toxic. People who don't even care about the controversy don't want to touch it. Like, it's done. And that's how it gets done, right? It's not even about just not going to the store, not walking into Target per se, but when you see someone with a Target bag, you got to kind of give them a little, like, oh, so you're like pro pedophilia and child grooming, huh? Like, yeah, like when that starts happening, that's when Target starts to really get damaged, right? And the Dodgers can't be let off the hook here, folks. I'm sorry. Like, and I'm a Yankee fan. If the Yankees ever did any embarrassing crap like that, they're in the same camp. Like, we've got to be ready to seriously physically punish the people. Like, you can't do it to all of them. Of course you can. Of course you can. You could, like, you can't do it to the ones you don't know about, but everyone that steps up, everyone that gets tossed up into the internet, into the internet ether, then yes. Absolutely. As soon as you hear about it, obviously you can't do anything if you didn't hear about it. But if you know about it and you willingly go and support these companies, you're literally funding the operation to groom children. So, and right now, people are not doing that. And it's wonderful to see. It's the closest thing to the people flexing muscle to Article 5 that I can think of. It's the closest thing, that the people can do that deals a direct blow right to the chin of the problem, and really shakes up things in that sphere, because it doesn't get shaken up often. The Larry Finks of the world, they're not on their heels very often. Why? Because they have the power of multiple governments behind them. It's not like Larry Fink is just brilliant, and that's why BlackRock gets to invest all the money. They get everybody's pension funds. That's what they get. When you hear that big trillions of dollars that they manage, and you hear that big number, a lot of that is pension funds from states and governments. All right? So, yeah, they got the little guy's money too, but more than half of what they have, I guarantee you, is made up of pension funds from states. California probably makes up a quarter of what they have alone. But that's how all these things stay connected. And by standing true to these boycotts and not going back and not blowing it off and not walking away, that empowers people. And I think people get it now. Like, I was concerned that Target, when I'm still waiting for Target's earnings to come out, like Budweiser, it's clear. Like Budweiser, it's clear. I know they say in the news that Target lost their, I think it was like $13.5 billion right now in market share. But like, those things, the forces that drive those things are not always the same as the forces that we have control over. And the forces that we have control over, like when they come out is walking in the door and buying something, right? So if when they come out with their second quarter earnings and they report that, and there's a massive drop off, they could excuse it all day long. We all know why that is, and so will the investors, who are already tearing down the gates over there at Target. So great job, people. I just want to kind of make it a point to give everyone a shout out for that. I'm keeping my eye on these boycotting. I'm keeping my eye on it. I want to see, that's why I haven't let it go yet, because I want to see how this pans out. I want to see how many of these companies still stick their neck out, and how many times we chop off the head. Like, that's what I want to see. Right? How many of them stick their neck out and kind of do the ESG thing, and then all of a sudden it's like, boom, the market just chops them down to size because we ain't doing ESG anymore. We're not doing ESG anymore. All right. So I want to get on to a second topic here, which is, excuse me. All right. I want to get on to a second topic here, which you must have seen, and I want to hear your comments on this one, because it's kind of over the top, but it's also, I have yet to see anyone truly shoot it down, was the Las Vegas alien situation. So that happened while I was in Mexico. And, I didn't go crazy like I normally would while I was there, because I wanted to make sure I was spending, good enough time with my family. But at the same time, I did do some looking into to try and find things to debunk this, right? Because that's kind of where my head is, right? Is my first instinct is, all right, where's the debunk to this? Let's find it. And a lot of it has been debunked since the time that I first saw it. So if you don't know the story, there was a police body cam that caught a falling object, and when he caught the falling object, it was hold on here. When he caught the falling object, he was curious as to what it was, and upon figuring that out, they simultaneously started getting all these 911 calls about the ground shaking, there being these issues and all this stuff. And it basically broke down to one of those calls was an individual who was describing what he was saying was an 8 to 10 foot alien standing in his backyard with a big eyes and a big mouth. And he seemed pretty calm and passive. But everything happened in like the same timeline. So the police actually went to check this out, which is where the story went viral. And in the midst of it, there were a bunch of claims and a bunch of things, and a lot of it was debunked. However, there was a video that surfaced that I don't know if the video, they claim that it is the aliens that this kid was talking about. I don't know what to make of this video, but I want to show it to you because I couldn't find it in a lot of places, and I found one guy who happens to be a CGI. That's what he does for a living. I'm going to play his clip too and give you his credentials before I do it. But before I do that, I'm going to let this alien run behind me and just look at this thing and tell me what you're making of that. Because, to me, when I first saw this, I was like, what the hell? But that thing looked as legit as can be. Now, I am not an expert in CGI, right? Which is kind of why I'm calling it a tank. But look at this thing, right? Look at that. I mean, that is crazy. And he's like moving around. He's like, what the hell? Like trying to hide behind a wall, right? it's kind of wild, man. And I was looking at trying to like debunk this, and I'm waiting for someone to come out and just shoot it down for me. And just be like, no, look, I do CGI, and this is not, this is not legit. Here's why. But what I ended up finding, and it wasn't much, okay, I found people doing full line by line story debunks of the whole incident, and never touch this video, and just not even go there. And so, like, I'm trying, number one, to appeal to you to be like, all right, do you have something out there that that will demonstrate that this thing that I'm looking at right now is a computer generated image? Because I want to play for you. Here's the guy who I found. This is so I found the video, then I found this guy who claims, here's what he claims he does for a living. He didn't distribute this video. His followers, he's got a few, sent them to him, and we're like, hey, what do you make of this? And then he went and gave his opinion as someone who does this for a living.
Hey everybody, my name is Kevin, and I have about 13 years experience in animation, 3D, compositing, special effects. I went to Academy of Art University and majored in animation and anatomy. I'm currently a medical artist. I specialize in facial aesthetics, but I have extensive experience compositing green screen footage, 3D objects into 2D video footage, motion tracking, and all of that kind of thing. So oddly enough, I live in Las Vegas, and I got this video of the alien creature, and so I just wanted to analyze it.
All right, so that's his credentials. All right, his self-described credentials, right? But I don't have a reason. I looked at some of the other stuff in his channel. This kind of is what he does. So I was interested to get his take on it, and I do have a clip of some of the things that he says about it. I have a link to that in the Rumble video. The Rumble stream ended up not going through, so I don't know what happened there, but let me go ahead and take that link. Normally I will leave these links in the Rumble stream, but since there was no Rumble stream because it never actually connected, I will go ahead and add the link in the comments for all the platforms so that that you guys can see the full video when we're done. All right. So, but anyway, here, let me give you his critique, right? So I'll give you his critique as to what I think it is, right? And here's Tara says, I can't believe any photos anymore. Yeah, this ain't a photo, though. I'm with you on the photos. But that thing's like moving. That's the thing. It's moving. And when I see that, that's what kind of set me off, right? So I don't know. My sister definitely saw a shapeshifter. Yeah. People have the stories are I mean, I don't want to turn the channel into a UFO channel, right? We're an Article 5 channel. Let's not lose our way. But every now I am fascinated by UFOs, the whole alien thing, etc. I found it fascinating a year ago when the government literally came out and were like, yeah, UFOs are real, and nobody cared. I was like, I don't know what that says about society, but nobody cared. Everybody was like, whatever. I just thought that was quite hilarious. But let me play for you. Let me find this. Here it is. So here's a clip of what his take is on, having been, you heard his credentials now, right? Here's a clip of what his take is on this. And folks, if you have another person out there who gave their take, the only thing I saw was a Reuters thing, and nobody believes Reuters, right? So it's like asking the government, did it happen, right? So, like Reuters was like, no, it's CGI. We don't know why, but it's CGI. And I was like, that's not good enough. I need you to explain to me why it's CGI, because this is the creepiest thing I think I ever seen in my life. If it's CGI, impressive, and that's what this guy says, so let's hear it.
The first thing I'm looking at is the animation or movement in the creature. And I'm gonna just say that if this is CGI, this is the best I've seen on any internet video regarding alien footage. I mean, it is bomb. So like this little step he takes right here, you can see it's shifting his whole weight. It's not just we animated a leg and moved his limb. It is really, he's taking a step, because he's trying to get a closer look at something. So I'm pretty impressed by that. The next thing that I think is really unusual is his bone structure. So when he comes down, he does these like wave motions with his back. You can kind of see there's one here, and then he comes down a second time, and it's like fluid. It's like, what is going on with his back that it moves that way? The next thing that I noticed is this bone. I don't know if my mouse is showing up here or not, but this bone that pokes out here, I was thinking that could be, you know, as far as the anatomy goes, maybe that's like his rib cage. You know, when we see animals like a lion or a tiger, kind of a cat-like animal, you see their hip bones protrude. But this is up where his rib cage is. His hip bones are down here, and he has this large bend that's really odd. But it also, when he crouches here, this fold of skin catches the light, which is really good if that's fake.
All right. So just to give you an idea of like what this dude is saying, like he knows his stuff. I don't, right? But he seemed pretty impressed with it. Now keep in mind, he didn't dismiss the fact that it could be CGI. But what he was saying is like, if that's CGI, that's the best CGI I've ever seen. And he does in other parts of the video kind of make the case that it would need to be, if it's CGI, it's likely Hollywood level, you know, type of stuff, which is pretty crazy. But, you know, I just thought that I would share that with you guys because I was kind of blown away by it. Norm, how are you, sir? Over on Facebook. It's kind of weird for me to not have anybody to refer to on Rumble tonight. I am so sorry to my Rumble folks. If any of you have come over here, just understand I don't know what happened there. That link was pasted right from the stream on Rumble. So, but knowing Rumble, it's probably, you know, an issue on their side. But nonetheless, I will rip it and post it to the Rumble channel after the fact. But and then what do we got here? Teresa Anderson says has a monkey. Are you saying that alien was a monkey? Is that what you're saying? Because that didn't look like any kind of monkey I ever seen in my life. I can tell you that. I'll be honest with you, the whole thing kind of freaks me out. I think my daughter, you know, my daughter's 16. She was, I think, the most honest with me out of anybody. And what she said was, you know, I think it's CGI because I don't want it to be real. And I was like, fair enough. I was like, I think I'm with you on that one, is basically what I told her. But and Teresa's saying it's the face that she thinks is a monkey. Yeah, there's other angles though as you watch him move where his eyes are way too big to be a monkey. Like there's just no way that, and he's too big to be so, and the anatomy's not right. Like if it's a monkey, it's a species we've never seen in our lives, which in and of itself would be incredibly interesting. So I'll buy, you know, but it's not an unfair assessment, right? We don't know. That's what I'm saying. I was hoping maybe that someone would be like, oh, dude, this was, you know, this was done by CGI, and here's why, and there's a video on it. I would have been stoked. That was what I was kind of hoping to get out of this, to be honest with you. But what got me about it was like, there's only like 2 videos of it on all of YouTube that haven't been taken down. So I'm like, all right, if they didn't take these down, then why is everybody else who's debunking the Las Vegas alien thing, why are they all not debunking these videos? Like, and that's what struck me about it. Was like, I was totally cool with all they said there was a circle imprint where the thing crashed, but it turns out they went to satellite image from Google Earth, and that same circle imprint was there like years ago. And then there was all these different things they shot down, and that made me, I was like, all of that sounds perfectly logical. And then I like kept waiting, thinking they're going to get to this video and explain why it's not true. And they all ignored it. And then of course, that's what makes you more interested in it, right? Is because... Oh, okay. Teresa says she didn't say it was him. All right, I understand. Yeah, the face features. Yeah, it was definitely like that thing was just freaky, man. I was looking at that thing and I was just like, What the hell? Skylab, how are you? Welcome back, man. We're back on the show there, Skylab, and we're happy to have you. And Skylab's been with us for quite some time, so we always appreciate the love when you jump back on again. And then, look, so Skylab, we were covering these crazy alien videos. I don't know if I could give you a peek at that crazy freaking looking thing. Here we go. This thing. Every time I look at it, it freaks me out a little bit. I don't even know if this thing is actually tied in. Like I was trying to find the exact date that this thing happened. And I don't know if it was the same date that's on the bottom of that camcorder. So it may not be. That was one of the things that I found suspect. But even then, I'm like, let's say it does add up. Then even then, or let's say it doesn't add up. Even then, I still want to know what the hell this video is. It's just some weird stuff, man. It's just some weird stuff. And I don't want to harp too long on it because we're not an alien theory channel or whatever. But I did want to share that with everybody. So I hope we. What does this say here? So I want. Yeah. All right. So Tara made a comment here saying, I want to see the start and end of this. When did it come into view? When did it leave? I agree. That was another question that I actually should have mentioned. I have it written here that I was thinking about. It's like, why are they just showing? Because every time when he turns up and turns back, there's only 2 posts of the video, but both of them stop right there where he turns up and looks back. Now, I don't know if maybe the video went off at that point or maybe it realized it was on, I don't know. Like I said, the whole thing is just weird to me. And the questions are endless. There's a hell of a lot more questions than there are answers on that thing. But, it is what it is. Mike Arnold, Cape Cod in the house. How we doing, Mike? Good to see you. I think you missed our alien. I just went over this wacky alien video because I'm into that sort of thing. But but let me move on because the last piece that I wanted to go over with you guys was this whole, and I don't know if you're aware of it. Let me try and share the page here. I have one of the articles of it up. Ready to go, but it's these armed IRS agents, right, that showed up at this guy's gun store in Montana, and it blew me away because let's see, show on the screen. Here we go. So yeah, and this article is saying Soviet-style intimidation raid and whatnot, but like this article here is not. It's a general overview, but what the IRS did, they showed up with armed agents along with ATF agents and raided this guy's store. And what made it concerning, number one, why do the IRS need to be armed? Number two, why are they rolling up with the ATF? The things that they took with them could have just been requested from the ATF. It didn't require them to show up at this guy's store. So what I'm reading here is an investigation conducted by the IRS in Great Falls, Montana. Gun dealers sparked outrage online on June 14th. 20 fully armed agents from the IRS and Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, and Firearms raided a gun shop. So they got 20 people running. And again, this is that overkill that we've been seeing all over the place, right? With when they go after the January 6 people, it's like a dude and his 12-year-old daughter. They show up with like battle tanks and freaking turrets and flashbangs and all this nonsense. Like, this is what that guy was saying. Sooner or later, these agents got to pick what team that they're actually playing for. But here they're saying, and Matt Rosendale. So Representative Matt Rosendale, this Congress starts grandstanding. This is so preposterous, blah, blah, blah. Nobody's doing anything, though, right? They took 4,500 documents or so out of this guy's gun store, none of which had to do with anything with taxes. None of which. Not one, all the documents they took were background check documents that went back like 13 years. They copied his entire hard drive onto what is the purpose of all this? Because the gun store owner doesn't know. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is because this is in my wheelhouse now. So now it's in my Article 5 wheelhouse, right? Because the IRS is the perfect example of a regulatory agency that needs to be shut down. And you're right, Mike. Why is the IRS armed? There's no reason for the IRS to be armed. And this is the problem, right? And we have McCarthy to thank for this. Like, for anyone that was getting duped by his nonsense, right? When the Freedom Caucus, like, oh, we're going to change the rules. We want these rules. We want these rules. We want these rules, right? Let's look at what we've gotten since then. He said, all right, we're going to release the January 6th tapes. He let one reporter, he didn't release anything. He let one reporter have access to the tapes for a limited amount of time. And then that's it. We don't hear anything about the tapes again. And what's wild is that the reason we don't hear about them again is because the FBI and the intelligence agencies claim that they're going to out some people if they do. I'm dying. Like, we should be outing those people. Those people should be outed. Right? I think everyone can agree on that. Those people should be outed. But they're not. But they're not outed, right? They're not. We never saw the tapes. So what else did McCarthy promise, right? Well, he promised he wasn't. Well, let's take the promise on the debt ceiling, because that's really what's relevant to this, right? I can go off on the laundry list of stuff that he's epically failed on already. But the debt ceiling was the one where he had them in the corner. And if you ever needed more example, if you ever needed a more highlighted, a more clear example of how these are two Republicans in the federal government, okay, are not your friends. They are not. Every single one of them that supported McCarthy, and it was the overwhelming majority of them, including Donald Trump, by the way. He ain't off the hook. I'm not one of those. Donald Trump is the reason that man got in, because he's the reason all those other Freedom Caucus people like Marjorie Taylor Greene and all these other like hardcore patriots, until Trump gives them an order, good or bad, right? And so McCarthy gets himself in there, and what does he do? He throws us all under the bus. He had the opportunity to absolutely remove funding for all 87,000 armed agents that were being added into the IRS. And he absolutely is solely, in my opinion, responsible for them existing. Period. And I don't give a damn who says what about who. Anybody who endorsed that man, the people knew. We knew. We knew this guy was poison. We knew it. We knew that if he became Speaker of the House, forget it. This House is done. This House is done. None of the things that we need to get done are going to get done with this House. No shot. No fiscal restraints. Sure as hell no term limits. I don't know if any House would do that. That's got to come from us. And then government overreach. Seriously, what have they done? They've got this committee telling all about how the government's weaponized. and just to give them a taste of how much the government could care less about how much the deep state military industrial complex could give two craps about their hearings on weaponization of government, they go ahead and they do this. They send 20 friggin' armed IRS agents to some gun owner's friggin' house under some trumped up charge of wanting to investigate a tax crime and leaving with information that has almost nothing. Most of it has absolutely nothing to do with taxes. Period. And I'm just sitting here looking at this and I'm just saying to myself, like, at what point, at what point, like, what is it for you that's going to push you over the edge to sign that petition and get this convention going? Like, and if you don't understand, if maybe you're new, I don't know if I have some people coming over from Rumble right now. I don't know. But what I do know is that if you're new, the Convention of States under Article 5 of our Constitution, it explains how we can amend it. All right. There's two ways to do that. One involves the federal government, where 2/3 of each of the House and Senate will vote on a proposal, present that to the states, and the states will then either ratify it or not. It requires 3/4 of the states. That's 38. The other way to do it, all right, and there's only one way, folks, to undo 100+ years of empowering Supreme Court decisions that have granted this behemoth that we're looking at that no longer cares what we think. All right, there's only one way to undo Supreme Court decisions, and that's through constitutional amendment. Is to go in, set the amendment, absolutely clarify with beyond all reasonable doubt what our intention is as a people and how we intend to protect our liberty. Right? And so as far as that's concerned, the other way to do it, the states can do it without the federal government at all. The states can call a convention. If 34 states, it's 2/3 of them. All right. So same as Congress, right? You need that 2/3 requirement, but there's 2/3 now of the states, not of the House and the Senate. So when 2/3 of the states sign petition or submit petitions, right, or resolutions to call for a convention, the state Congress they shall call a convention, right? Once that convention's called, the states select delegates. They go to convention. They go with topics in hand. These are the topics that are currently 19 states have already passed resolutions on. All right, term limits, balanced budgets, right, fiscal restraints, and government overreach. This McCarthy thing falls right in the government overreach wheelhouse, right there. Because two things that fall under the topics, right? Fiscal restraints, we could overturn the 16th Amendment, which is a blasphemy. It's a blasphemy to the Constitution in the first place. They tried for decades. It was shot down for being unconstitutional. It is absolutely directly opposed to the founders' intent in developing this nation. But once that's removed, shut down the IRS. Done. And get out of this world where we're adding 87,000 agents and giving them guns. How could that not bother anybody? You think they're coming after rich people? You think that's what's happening? This guy is not the friggin' owner of a major chain of gun stores. He's got one store. They're not going after rich people, folks. They're Marxists already. They're not going after rich people. That is not how that works. They're all in with the rich people. They're using the rich people to help oppress you in other ways. That's the reality. That's the reality. Welcome, Brian Specht. Share, share, share. Absolutely. Another one in the People's Republic of California. Locked down with me. Locked down with me. And sorry, I was watching Ron Clark, Freedom Advocate. I might have to check that out myself. I heard that Kennedy got himself a streaming channel on Rumble. I won't vote for the man, but I definitely appreciate the fact that he is not sold. He has not sold his soul to these Marxists. And he's kind of the poster child example of what I mean when I say Democrats are on the side of Americans. It's the Marxists who are not on the side of the Americans. There's a different thing. Yes, the Marxists hijacked the Democrat Party, but there are still voters throughout who have not gone insane, right? And he's one of them. I don't agree with his policies on a lot of stuff, but I do appreciate the fact that he understands basic common sense when it's posed to him. The fair tax would eliminate the IRS. Yeah, the fair tax would eliminate the IRS, but it would still be a tax on income. So I agree with you. If we can't overturn the 16th Amendment, and I was hoping that, and for those that don't know what the 16th Amendment is, guys, it's where they implemented income tax. It was not native. It was not native in the Constitution. The left had to get that implemented, and that's what's just happened to coincide with the birth of the Fed and everything else. So don't think it's all done by accident. All right, so we got some books recommendations here. Outstanding. 2 books to read, The Fair Tax and The Fair Tax Answering the Critics. So for those of you who don't know what the fair tax is, the fair tax, well, there's 2, right? You'll hear about 2. You'll hear flat tax and fair tax. Fair tax is the one we want, though. And fair tax is consumption tax. So you eliminate the income tax completely, and you go back to just paying tariffs and paying, there's a set rate that the whole country pays for goods and services, right? You can have some exceptions for food or for, water, essential life essentials, whatever. However you work that out. But the bottom line is the revenue gets generated on consumption. So you, as a liberty-loving, free individual, can choose how much taxes you pay based on when or when not you decide to buy different products. So, for example, you get all of your money in your check, right? And then now you have that money and you say, you know what? I really wanted to get, I don't know, an ATV. But you know what? I don't really have enough money to do the ATV right now because of the tax. So I'm going to hold off and put away extra money, and then I can go ahead and get that ATV. You pay the tax; it's there. If you don't want the ATV, you don't pay tax. And it just plays that game that way. Why would this generate more revenue than income tax ever would? Because everybody contributes. Everybody contributes. Because you can't get goods and services without contributing. It is the way that the nation was designed to be. All right, you can still have your safety net of some sort. You can still have things for the most impoverished. We're not trying to throw grandma off a cliff. But the bottom line is taxing people's income is theft. And it always has been theft. And it's why the Supreme Court shot it down every single time. Right? It was allowed in the Civil War out of necessity. And then as soon as the war ended, it was taken down. But the bottom line is it's never been constitutional, and it required an amendment to make it so. And we need to bring it back and get rid of it. So that's one thing that Article 5 can do for us that would have an immediate impact with respect to the IRS. Because once we eliminate the income tax and move to a tariff, there is no need for the IRS. The entire corporate world will no longer look at politicians on a take a knee basis. ESG, things like that will no longer rule the day. Because the politicians will not be able to reciprocate. You follow? There's no tax code for them to write a loophole into, which is how the game works. If people think corporations are the one running that show, they're not. If ESG doesn't show you that, plain and simple, I don't know what will. But I've always known that. Never fear the person who's paying. Always fear the person who's demanding the money. That's the bottom line. So, yes, exactly. The fair tax does not tax income; it taxes consumption. So, and that's the key, right? That's the place we would like to get to. So it seems like that might create black markets. I'm guessing I'm saying that might create black markets. Now, it's not going to create, but there are black markets now, first of all. So I don't know what, but that being said, yeah, there'll be black markets, but there are black markets now, and none of that is going to make a difference. Black markets are going to be someone knocks over a truck and sells the stuff at half price. The taxes, there's not going to be a black market for yachts, right? Like the smaller buy items, like a black market for cars, etc. Like in the end, the smaller buy items, you're going to be looking at like a 10% tax or so. I mean, I don't know what the exact percentage would be, but it'd be around the 10. The way I imagine is around the 10% mark, somewhere in that ballpark. But you're going to have so much more money. So you can't look at it like all of a sudden you just go outside and there's this tax. No, go to your last paycheck and look at everything the federal government took out of it and everything the state government took out of it and put that back in your bank account. It's more money than you're going to pay in 10% of goods. Trust me when I tell you. All right. Let me see. IRS agents would need to be retained as money managers. Yeah, exactly. Because all estimates have the consumption tax bringing in a ton more revenue than the income tax because so few people fund the income tax. So it's kind of the theory of, like, when you look at it, I forget the exact percentages, but like almost all of it almost all government revenue is funded by like the top 8% of earners. And everyone else, the further you go down the line, the percentage gets lower, 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 lower. And then eventually it gets to the 50% or so mark where they're paying nothing. They pay nothing. And when I say nothing, it doesn't mean you're not paying something out of your paycheck. You do, but then you get more than what you paid back in refund. Because you add the child tax credit, you add this credit, oh, that's deductible, this is deductible, I got solar panels, I got this, whatever it is. You factor all that funky stuff in, you end up getting more back than you paid, which represents most of the country. The system is totally morally bankrupt. It's totally morally bankrupt, without a doubt. Donald McClay, greetings all. Greetings to you, Donald. I am glad you were able to join us today. We're catching me at the end flow here. I'm just about tearing up the IRS, promoting Article 5, and ready to drive a bus over Kevin McCarthy for selling us out on the debt ceiling. But yeah, I mean, look, in the end, folks, you need the first step, okay? The first step, before anything else happens, the first step that has to happen is you have to sign the petition. All right. It's not some flaky petition that's like, it's you putting your name down and demanding to be noticed. A letter will be sent, all right, to your local legislature, all right, to your local, whoever it is in your district is where it goes. Why? Because it's the local legislatures where the power in this country really lies. Period. And all the FBI agents and all the deep state and all of that stuff, that's all well and good. And America's a corporation and the Fed and the Rothschilds and the Rockefellers, and all of that stuff is all well and good. But in the end, the only way that those people retain power in any way, shape, or form is as long as we don't know where our power is. Because the power is ours. We left it in a drawer some 150 years ago or so. And then I don't know if we didn't throw away the dresser. It's out there. We gotta find that drawer. And the one place we should be looking for it is in books, right? Period. And I can tell you, when you're done signing the petition, click the volunteer button. Now you can do this through my website, just because I like to get credit for it. It'll take you over to the petition. If you go to thepatriotthinktank.com/COS for Convention of States, it will take you to the page where the link for the petition is right there. There's a link to Cause University and the volunteers. So you can go in there, someone local to you, folks. Like this movement is big already. All right. There's some 5 million people around the country already who are engaged, that are, district captains and whatnot. So in your local district, someone's going to reach out to you. If you click that volunteer button, they'll reach out to you. And then they'll help you. They'll walk you through like what you can do to help the movement, because it's not like this movement is how the founders designed it, right? This is how they designed it. This is why the 17th Amendment is disgusting. When they took away the Senate, the right for the legislatures, the state legislatures, to appoint federal senators and made it a direct vote. Why is that a problem? Because now they cut out your local legislature. They cut them out of the process. In the past, if it was a Mitt Romney out there and he goes flaky on you, or Liz Cheney, you go to your local representative right there in your district and you demand that he be pulled out. And when everybody does that, the legislature gets together and they pull him out. They took that ability away now, right? So that's the reason for it. But that's the kind of power that the legislatures have. And frankly, that would fall under the government overreach. Like there's so many things to consider, right? It's going to be such an amazing civics lesson, if for nothing else, to watch the entire process go through. But no matter what gets through, no matter what amendment we get and which one we don't, and however it goes, right? No matter what, once the process is done, there's an immediate shift in the relationship between the federal government and the people. Because think about it. Now, the borders aren't being addressed in these terms, right? But think about it, right? The So they'd have to call a separate convention if they wanted to address the borders that was on that topic, right? But let's just say the convention goes through. We got term limits. We got balanced budgets. We repealed the 16th. We closed most of the agencies. We couldn't close some, whatever, right? It ends how it ends. Just the fact that we were able to do it and the process has now been completed and that civics course is now done because it's never formally been done before. It's been done indirectly, but it hasn't fully gone all the way through. Once that's done, the borders are an issue. Okay, we're really getting mad? Look, it's the federal government's responsibility to manage the borders via the Constitution. But hey, if you guys are going to just refuse the responsibility, we can take it away from you. If that's, if it's too much for you, because I guarantee you the mere threat of that will get the National Guard on the borders and get the entire thing under control. Period. That's flexing. All right. That's the ability to flex. You follow me? Because nothing else is going to do it. There's no president that's going to get it done. I don't care if you're for DeSantis or Trump. It doesn't matter. Whoever gets the office of the president of the United States does not have the ability to fix the structural damage that has been done by the Supreme Court to our federal government over the course of over 100 years. Death by 1,000 cuts. Some of them were bigger gashes. But the fact is, the Supreme Court is not the final. They're not the final word. Everyone looks at the Supreme Court. Well, that's what they decided, so that's what it is. No, that's not what it is. It is until we decide, hey, you know what? We don't like that. And there's a process in place, the ultimate check and balance, if you will, in place to correct this. And what's killing me is that, look, I don't mind fighting the shadow bans. I don't mind fighting, YouTube. I don't even know what the thought process on YouTube is. Like, we could get dropped from YouTube at any time, but in the end, there's only so many ways that certain things can be done. And this particular things, like the big things, right? The big things, not like, oh, we want tax breaks or we want none of that shit. I'm talking about an overhaul, balanced budgets, like turning the debt clock in reverse, right? Potentially shutting down the Fed, buying back our debt, right? Big things that everybody thinks can happen. Because, you can't do it because we're a corporation. Of course we could do it. Of course we can do it. And it's there. Whoever you want to put under the term of there, right? Whether you want to say the CCP, WEF, Deep State, Illuminati, Freemasons, Rothschilds, pick your freaking psycho, right? Whoever it is, they have no power if we exercise ours. But they own our education system, they own Hollywood, they own the media, they own all of that. But I think we've demonstrated that that doesn't mean as much in the United States as it did in China and as it did in the Soviet Union and as it did in Venezuela, Cuba, Vietnam, etc. It doesn't mean as much here to own everything because you can't fully own it, right? There are still rumbles out there, right? Hell, there's BitChutes out there, right? There are still other avenues for people to turn, and you can't control them all. Why? Because that's what our Constitution empowers us to do through free speech. It's no different with any amendment that we pass. It's no different. Now, if you say, oh, well, they don't follow the Constitution now, that's that 3,000-page binder that the Supreme Court uses, that is all the decisions that they've made that I'm talking about. Those are the pages that need to get ripped out. So we can get it back to looking a lot more like that pocket version that many of you carry around. There's only one way to do that. There is no alternative. There's one way to do it. That's through constitutional amendment. And for the love of God, I can't imagine anyone who's going to look at the federal government. I don't care if both houses are Republican and the president's Republican. If you think you're going to get anything meaningful out of those people, you're insane. You're insane. And I don't think you do think that. I don't think you do think that. I think everybody in their heart of hearts understands. But then it becomes, well, then when do we make a move? When do we make a move? Ask yourself right now, who's your local legislature? Who's your local representatives for your district? It's okay if you don't know. Honestly, I mean, it's not okay, but it's okay considering the state of the country right now. But in the end, that's where we failed. That's really where they won. You know, the Soviets first, and then the CCP picked it up with the ideological subversion, removing civics from classrooms, replacing it with social studies. That was really where they won. Because you've got generations who don't understand anything regarding civics at all. And Gen X is right there with them. If you didn't make a conscious effort on your own, because school was never going to do it for you, if you didn't make a conscious effort on your own to go and learn civics and understand our Constitution and understand the founders' intents and understand all the nuance that went into the thought processes behind the things that made this country phenomenal, then it's going to be impossible to understand or it's going to be impossible for you to even see when those things are being torn down. The only thing you will see is the end result. You will wake up one morning and be like, oh my God, what happened? Does that sound similar to like where we are right now? Because most of America right now is saying just that. Most of America right now are saying, oh my God, what happened? How did things go so wrong? Because as they were slowly falling apart for 70 years, as the CCP swore their 100-year war, but it was really the Soviets who carried that torch up through the 80s and into 1990 before they fell, and then the CCP just picked it up and ran with it from there. It's the same ideology. It's the same game. But yet, none of us knew it. None of us knew it. We all just went through life. I joke with my brother about this because we were both I was into all kinds of music in the 80s. Growing up in Queens, New York in the 80s was a wild time for music, man. There was hip hop, heavy metal, all the one hit wonders. I mean, there was just so much going on. But I tried to explain to him, looking back, like, do you think honestly that the entire heavy metal genre was not purposely put there? Listen to the messaging. Listen to the messaging. It doesn't mean that the singers and bands were. There are millions of bands they could have chosen. They chose the ones. They heard that sound that they wanted from the ones who were preaching the message that they wanted on their own. It's amazing how they never found a Christian band to go double platinum and all that. No, but there was an awful lot of bands, Shout at the Devil, Black Sabbath, all bands I listened to and liked, but all demonic in nature, at least in message, maybe not as human beings, but in message, all demonic, right? The majority anyway. Ozzy Osbourne, right? Biting heads off of bats and stuff. Like, all that stuff all that stuff was put in play for a reason. It was all a part of that game. And he didn't want to admit it. And most people don't want to admit it. Because you think of the bands that you like, you want to think it's them. You want to think it's the millennials. You want to think it's Gen Z, Gen Y. Nobody wants to go back and realize that the hippies were the first ideologically subverted generation. They were the first ones to go down. They were the first ones that the Soviets danced and celebrated, that they created. There was nothing organic about hippies. Nothing. Their entire message, everything that they learned in school was pumped into their head. And here we are, 70 years later, whatever it may be, not from that day, but 70 years from when they started all this, and we're all like, whoa, what happened? Like, poof, we just woke up in 2020. Just woke up. But the good news is there's a way out. The good news is there is a way out. The good news is we can sign the petition and get that ball rolling. And it doesn't stop at signing the petition, by the way. I keep saying sign the petition. It's not like, oh, sign the petition. Okay, you're done. Even when we get the next, we got 19 states now. So even when we get up to 34, it's still not done. Then we got to start focusing on who the hell our state legislatures are picking as delegates, and make sure we get the sharpest, best people in there for that. Then we got to be on top of what, when they come out of that thing. All right, well, what are the proposals? What do we like? What don't we like? What are we okay for our legislature to ratify? What are we not okay with? It's a process. But we can't just keep leaving it to the government to take care of us. We see where that ended. Like never again. And I can tell you this, the convention's going to get called. And it's not getting play right now in the media, but get ready. Because once we still got a few states that are probably going to pass resolutions this year. And once that number gets, so it's at 19 now, once it gets to like 23, 24, you're going to be hearing about it plenty. Maybe it's 25. We're all taking bets on when the media is going to get triggered. When they're going to start attacking it in full view and not just ignoring it, hoping nobody finds out about it. This is going to happen. It's going to happen. Let me see what we got in the comments here. Mike says, if you don't know your local representative or how your local government functions, sign the cause petition, volunteer, and we will teach you. Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So, like, if you're sitting there watching this and you're thinking to yourself, man, like, I don't know who my representative is. I really want to know who my representative is. Where do I even start? Like, where do I even start to get myself active in this way? They will teach you. They will teach you. And it's, trust me when I tell you, it's not just worth learning, it's necessary learning, because you can then teach that to your children or your grandchildren, because they're the ones ultimately that are going to be affected by this more than anyone else. Once AI starts taking jobs, and if these people are controlling AI, I can tell you right now, it's over for your grandchildren. It's over. Your children, it's over. It's over. If these people end up controlling AI, it's done. Forget it. Throw in the towel now. Don't even bother. Don't even bother. If we don't get a handle on this, folks, quickly, all right, because the AI is coming either way. This fourth industrial revolution that Klaus has named, all right, it's real. It's a real thing that's coming, okay? And the question's going to be, is that technology going to be in the hands of liberty-loving Americans or liberty-loving people, or is it going to be in the hands of a few in very high places using it for tyranny? It's going to be very difficult to combat it if that happens. Tara says, I think what we have learned is that it is never done. Well, we'll see, right? We'll see. We'll see. And always have to put in the work. Absolutely. And look, this is where those people in this country, and I want to think that they're waking up now. I want to think that the 40%, as I always call them, which for those that are new is based off Solomon Ash's study, his conformity study, and see how people conform when the rest of the group goes one way. In the end, when it was all over and he explained to everybody it was an experiment, there were 30% who still insisted they were right, even though he showed them. Like, everyone's an actor. You're not right. No, we're right. I think we know who those people are, right? Then there's another 30% on the other end who are like, no, we knew it was totally wrong from the beginning. They called it wrong in the beginning, and they passed the experiment. And then there's that 40% in the middle who knew the whole time what the right answer was, but continually gave the wrong one because they didn't want to make waves. That 40% is what's killing this country right now. And I want to say by these boycotts that they're waking up. I want to believe that. I do. I want to believe, because I don't think the other 30% by itself can, maybe most of the people that watch this, that are watching me are in that original, they knew it was BS from the beginning, 30%. But the point is that 40% who keep conforming, they make the crazy 30% think that there are 70% on their side. And that's, I'm hoping right now that those people are waking up, that they're coming to, that they're finally saying enough is enough. I'm hoping that's where the power of these boycotts. Target was one that, if their earnings come in and their earnings are legitimately horrible, where you could see that foot traffic fell off. From last I read, their stores were down 14% in foot traffic. That's significant. It may not sound like a lot to you. That's a lot of money. It's a lot of money because you got to remember how many people are oblivious, right? So 14% is an excellent number. So I'd like to say that that's indicative of the people waking up, but we don't know, right? We don't know. We're going to have to wait and see. So to be a self-governing citizen, you need to be truly educated in civics, not social studies. Yes. Yeah. Thanks, Mike. And I use that all the time on this broadcast, and I always point to that point in history, right? I'm Gen X. We had social studies. Civics, just to give you an idea how long ago this went, right? You weren't thinking social justice back then. You weren't thinking Marxism. You weren't thinking that stuff. They swapped those two out, and nobody paid attention. Must have been mid-70s, I would guess, that they did the swap. It was already there when I went into school in the early 80s, and it was already there. So, but that was it. They took civics out of the classroom is to make sure that you don't know, right? If there's no civics being taught in classrooms, you could convince these young dootaroos that there's freaking, hate speech should be illegal. Because they have no idea why you would want to protect hate speech. Like they have no idea of the significance and the meaning behind the First Amendment. They don't understand it because there's no civics. They don't teach that in social studies. They don't teach that. And that's the point. And again, it's not just the young generations. It goes all the way back. All the way back. The boomers are absolutely in that club. Don't get it twisted. The hippies are the first ones, the first group, the first ones who sold their souls or whose souls were taken from them, however you want to look at it. But they're the first ones that the Soviets celebrated. And here we are all these years later. And it took a pandemic and all the controversy that surrounded it, right, to wake people up and be like, this thing ain't right. Something's not right here. And still not everybody woke up, but enough did. Enough did. And the fact of the matter is, more and more are waking up every day. And this is something that we absolutely need to encourage. But in the meantime, we have to take action on our own. And there, like I said earlier, there's only one way to take that action. And that action is Article 5. And if you're listening to the Soros groups, and you're listening to JBS, and you're listening to Publius Hulda, and these coconuts. Oh, don't do it. They're going to rewrite the whole Constitution. Oh, it's going to get crazy. Really? Because, number one, there's no historical context for that. Number two, half of these, with the exception, JBS used to want their own convention until the latest class of psycho dootadoos took over. Now they're all about hating it. Don't let people scare you out of your power, folks. Do not let them scare you out of your power. Do the reading. Convention of States organization, conventionofstates.com. They will walk you through that. They will walk you through that process of understanding not just Article 5, but the Constitution and its intentions in the first place. And why groups like JBS lie to you, and why groups like, what was it, Women's Vote, the League of Women Voters, and Common Cause, a bunch of Soros groups. These are the people who all align together when it's time to do a hearing and try and poison the minds of your state legislatures. And sometimes they're successful, and sometimes your legislatures read. But when they read, it goes through. 100% of the time. Right? So let me leave you on that note. So your next step after listening to me bloviate is to head over to the patriotthinktank.com/COS. Get yourself signed up and get yourself and click that volunteer button while you're signing up. Because those two things are going to change your life and change the country forever. And I can tell you right now that when this thing gets called, 250 years from now, they're going to be talking about this moment. All right. When this happens, when this goes down, once we start throwing in some impactful constitutional amendments, they will be teaching this 250 years from now. So if you're at a Convention of States event, they're taking pictures, make sure they get you a good side. It might end up in a textbook one day. And not only that, okay, but they will also look back and look at these Marxists as a failed psyop. That's the way history is going to be written, realistically. The question is not if, the question is when. And when is determined by how long it takes you to sign that petition. On that note, folks, I'm out.